If there is one character in Wuthering Waves that is absolutely crushing the sub-DPS meta, it's definitely Sanhua because she's the true definition of a broken sub-DPS. The main role of sub-DPS characters in almost any gacha game is to do three things. The first one is to do a little bit of damage while they are on the field. 2, to take the lowest field time as possible. And 3 is to provide some kind of buffing capabilities to the main damage dealer in the team. And Sanhua checks all of those boxes as far as sub-DPS characters are concerned. And what makes it even better is that she's a free character, so every player has at least S0 Sanhua on their account. Her absurd amounts of Concerto Energy regeneration by simply using her Liberation, Skill, and Forte Heavy Attack is what makes her a broken sub-DPS, because she takes very little on-field time. But what if I told you that the amount of Concerto Energy you regenerate at S4 and S5 are completely different? Even though the game does not tell you anything about that in her kit description or her sequences, and it reduces her on-field time quite significantly. Since most players have gotten their hands on the new Sanhua outfit, which is absolutely stunning by the way, I want to take this opportunity to provide an updated review on Sanhua and share some tips and tricks that can help significantly improve your gameplay experience. If this video proves helpful or enjoyable in any way, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon because it helps me out tremendously. Let's begin with tip number 1. Make her S5 your main priority because it makes her even more broken. For some odd reason, Sanhua's S5 increases the amount of Concerto Energy she gets when you detonate her ice creations. By ice creations, what I mean is these icy thorns she creates with her Resonance Liberation and Skill. Her S5 specifically states that the crit damage of her Forte Circuit's Ice Burst is increased by 100%, which is very decent. The second part of her Sequence 5 states that her ice creations will explode after a short while, even if they are not detonated by Sanhua, which says nothing about an increase in Concerto Energy. But how exactly do you explain this? As you saw from the clip, my S5 Sanhua regenerated a lot more Concerto Energy than my S4 Sanhua, and the difference is quite significant. From the S5 Sanhua clip, this damage right here is from the second instance of her Forte Heavy Attack detonation damage because it hits twice and the first instance of damage begins right after the animation begins before she vanishes and after she vanishes. So you get 2 instances of damage in total from her Forte Heavy Attack. And the 802 and 261 are the detonation damage of her ice creations from her Liberation and Skill. If you look more closely, you can see that there's another instance of damage from the ice creation detonation hidden behind the 261 glacial damage. Hence, the additional instance of damage is what regenerated more Concerto Energy for S5 Sanhua compared to S4 Sanhua. Because if you take a look at the S4 Sanhua clip, there are only 3 instances of damage instead of 4 instances of damage compared to the S5 Sanhua clip. So then where the heck did this 145 hidden behind the 261 glacial damage come from? If you take a look at the scalings of her Forte, you can see that all the ice creations including the Glacier, Ice Prism, and Ice Thorn Burst have a single type damage scaling, meaning that they will inflict a single instance of damage. So in my showcase, I used the Liberation, which created the Glacier, and Skill, which created the Ice Prism. Ice Thorn can only be created from her intro skills, and in my showcase, I did not include an intro skill, so when the ice was detonated, I should have only 2 instances of damage from Glacier and Ice Prism. But somehow, if you have her S5, an additional instance of damage, which is right behind the 261 glacial damage number here, was created. After hours of testing, I could not find out the source of this hidden detonation damage if you have her S5, so it's probably a bug in the game. However, I'll be glad if Kurog decides not to fix this one, so if you don't have all of her sequences, make at least S5 your top priority because that way you won't need to rely on intro skill in every rotation, which is not accessible to Sanhua in every team like a Camellia team for example, or rely on the Overture Sword because you'll be wasting her damage potential due to the energy regen substats on the weapon. Tip number 2, play her normally. What I mean by play her normally is that the normal way of playing Sanhua is to use her Liberation, Skill, and then Forte Heavy Attack. But there's a tech that saves you a little bit of time, which I like to call the Instant Detonation, and I've been using it for quite a while now. How this works is that you use her Liberation and start her Forte Heavy Attack right after. As soon as she disappears, use her Skill, which will instantly detonate the ice created by her Liberation and Skill. However, this will prevent the second instance of damage of her Forte Heavy Attack from hitting the enemy, so you only get the Concerto Energy from the first hit, which will cost you some decent amount of Concerto Energy, as you can see from this side-by-side comparison. If you are playing her in a Spectral Rover team, for example, where the intro from your healer can be given to Sanhua, this will not be a major issue because the intro skill helps her regenerate additional Concerto Energy, so feel free to use the Instant Detonation tech if you want to in a Spectral Rover team. However, if you're playing her in a Camellia team where Camellia requires the intro from your healer, you're better off playing her normally to generate more Concerto Energy and outro from the field very quickly. Tip number 3, Sanhua deserves proper investment. I know a lot of you guys with S6 Sanhua just slaps her on any team if you don't have a dedicated sub DPS like Yanlin for Zhangli Yao or Cucaracha because of her short on-field time and the attack buff from her S6. But please invest in your Sanhua, especially if you only pull for S0 5-star limited time damage dealers in the game, so she can help increase your team's overall damage output because her damage potential is quite high. The footage you're seeing right now is a Sanhua double DPS team with Cheji, and her Liberation damage is hitting 79k, Skill is hitting 41k, and the Ice Detonations combined with the Forte Heavy Attacks were hitting around 100k damage, which means that she was able to dish out roughly 220k damage when built as a DPS. With a sub DPS build in a Camellia team, her overall damage output per rotation is around 80k damage, which is decent for the little field time that she takes. Do keep in mind that in order to do more damage, you need to do a basic attack 5, which can easily come out after an intro skill, or do a heavy attack and spam your basic attacks. And it only takes 2 seconds if you're worried about the damage per second of your main damage dealer in the team. You only need to start the basic attack 5 animation to gain the buff, so you don't really need to complete it, which can save you some time during your tower runs. Doing this will help Sanhua gain 20% ice detonation damage and 15% crit rate from her S1 if you have it. You'll know when Sanhua has the buff if you see these golden arrows on her character model. Overall, I strongly believe that Sanhua will stay at the top of the sub DPS meta for a very long time because you are guaranteed a decent sub DPS whenever Kuro releases new damage dealers that scales off basic attack damage. That'll be all for the Sanhua review and her updated tips and tricks. Hope this video was helpful, and be sure to join our Discord community. If you have any issues with the game or you just want a place to chill or hang out, link will be in the channel description. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.